Oh, wow. Hey, pura vida, mi gente. Welcome, welcome. Get cozy. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna read today, guys. We're gonna go through another book. We're gonna start another book while we finish other books. We're gonna keep learning. So I appreciate you guys being here, taking the time to be here, learning with me, reading with me, learning together. And we always pick out the babies. We always touch the hijacks. You guys know how we do it. Okay. So, ¿qué pasó, güey? Órale. ¿Qué me dice? Pura vida. All right. Wow. Yeah, keep the code, dodge the hijack. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, let's go. Keep learning. We don't stop, man. Got no time to stop. They say, well, if the few is, well, as long as we got a few gathered, three or more, the Most High is there. The Great Spirit is there. Everybody else is not here, but you guys are here. Oh, wow, 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 yeah. Wow, wow. And the word was, huh? So we're gonna get into this book, The Invasion of the Indian Country in the 20th Century, American Capitalism and Tribal Natural Resources by Donald L. Fisico from like 1951, I believe. And so shout out to the author, shout out, on the fair use, we're going to review, fair use, read, learn together, education, purposes, fair use, commentary, critique, fair use, right? We're going to go to chapter 1 and see where we're at. I thought it was chapter 1. Nope. Yeah, we go to chapter 1. Hold up. So welcome. Appreciate everybody. This is your first time. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I go live a lot. I drop a video almost every day, guys. So if you don't know that, if you think I've been out, I get messages. People say, "Hey, where you been, man? Haven't seen you. Haven't seen you drop a video." I'm like, "What you mean, man? I drop a video almost every day, man. What are you talking about?" And guys, so before I begin, I'm almost done with the tree. I found Chief Glenna Wallace, real parents. I'm building the tree. You guys are gonna see I was right. My whole point in the beginning. You guys are gonna see how right I was. Okay. So I got that going. That's what I've been working on the last 2 days. And I was hoping to finish it yesterday and I didn't. I worked on it all day yesterday. I worked on it all day today. And I was like, all right, well, I got to do a video. Let's go ahead and take care and read this chapter 1 if we can. And it says here, Jackson Barnett and the allotment of the Muskogee Creek lands, right? So just real quick, we got Jackson Barnett, if you don't know about him. Hey, Signs, I didn't know that. I mean, if I did your tree, yeah, I do know that, but he did look familiar, honestly. Hey, Signs, man. So if you're related, you know, yeah, I guess we did run into this, Rich is Indian. So he's pretty famous when it comes to, look at this, the world's richest Indian. The scandal over Jackson Barnett's oil fortune. We're gonna read all about it today, guys. We're gonna get the whole drop, the whole history. Okay. That's your relative. That was funny. Yeah. All right, dog. So yeah, we're gonna see what happened. Okay, guys. Let me see. So, and it says Jackson Barnett, A full-blood Muskogee Creek. Full blood, huh? Hey, look, hey, Science. Let's be honest. Was he a full blood? How did he get the Barnett name? Let him know, Science. Let him know. Because I know, just like supposedly all these people are all full-blooded. You're gonna see. I'm gonna show you what the tribe had to admit about even the one Indian that I found. The one Indian. They're gonna have to admit there's some French in there. They took a DNA test. So, and then I got the whole drop. So, anyways, let's go. So, Jackson Barnett, full-blood Muskogee Creek epitomized the exploitation of many Indian people during the allotment of tribal lands between 1887 and the mid-1920s. Caught in the capitalist web of the white world, so-called white, right? The Creek and other allotted Indians found their lives chaotic and threatened upon being assigned individual lands by the government. From all sides, greedy Europeans and selfish mixed bloods pressured the full bloods, so-called, lusting after their royalties and their oil and gas lands. Allotment of tribal lands under the Dawes Act of 1887 and subsequent amendments divided tribal members and created factions for and against the allotment of those lands. Without the support of their kinspeople, and like in business experience, individual Indians, all right, pay attention to this. This is an important part of the story, like how they pick certain people to be so they can control kinda. You guys see. So Science, I don't know if we got so deep into his story when we did your genealogy. I don't think we did, because we were just doing all the lines. And but it's gonna see there's some foul play involved there when it comes to your ancestor, what they were doing to him. And so it says individual Indians such as Jackson Barnett fell victim to free enterprise profit making. The federal policy of Indian allotment was designed to individualize Native Americans and destroy their communal orientation. Okay? So we have another case. If you guys remember, it was Sarah Rector, the richest so-called colored girl. She had one of these lots as well, in Indian territory. She was very, very wealthy. Sarah Rector. We have a whole genealogy. You guys saw the whole genealogy, right? It's Indians for sure, and there's some Irish and Scottish, and right. So same thing with kind of when it comes to this person, we're gonna read how they were taking advantage of. So picture, what you want to picture when it comes to Indians. A lot of Indians were going through this, right? So furthermore, the most basic element of Indian society, the person or self, came under ruthless attack. The idea of self being interconnected with community and environment is well documented in the case of Jackson Barnett. However, he and other Indian people found they had to reorient their thinking as they lived adjacent to or within white society, which stressed individuality. Learning to cope became a means of survival, as sadly proved by native people such as Jackson Barnett during the allotment years. So you see, that's very important if you guys understand. And they try to individualize the American Indian, make it about me, I, instead of we, right? Instead of the tribe, instead of the nation. We do this for the nation. We do this for my people. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't worry about that, man. Take care of yourself, man. Don't worry about that. Here you go. Take care of yourself, man. Don't worry, man. Here you go, man. Don't worry, man. Don't worry. It'll be all right. You take care of yourself, man. So learning to code became a means of survival again, as sadly proved by native people such as Jackson Barnett during the allotment years. Barnett's sad story began during the late 1800s, when his people, the Muskogee Creek, experienced political strife as they tried to find a balance between retaining the old ways and becoming like the whites or Europeans, right? Or literally whites at this point, right? The adult life of Jackson Barnett illustrated the confusion experienced by a single Indian person trapped between the dynamic changes of a traditional native culture entangled with the European society. In this dilemma, Indian people had to make critical decisions involving their lands while alien pressures compounded their problems. The traditional person did not comprehend the land leases and property sales involved in the federal government's allotment policy. Whose policy? The federal government that became legitimized. We're talking about the U.S. corporation that had expanded, U.S. expansion, right? Where they took over the native lands. Remember what we read? Recently, we have a lot of videos recently talking about this, right? We've been following me the last week. All beginning with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship that legitimized this federal government, this corporation, which now creates the policies, right? In this dilemma, okay, so we got the traditional person did not comprehend the land leases and the policies, thus pulling them from the old world they knew. From the old world they knew. This is the old world. Oh, subliminal. Creation stories from long ago say that Jackson Barnett and his tribespeople descended from Ignuf, or Mother Earth, as many tribes know it, with each generation deepening the relationship between the people and the earth. According to Muskogee Creek oral history, the people received the substance of life from Ignif, created by the Master of Breath, Hasekmef. Wow, this is deep right here. This is Mama and Papa. This is Ha. Wow, get it? She was there with him. Proverbs 8. Wisdom, Mama, and the breath that he who exists, the breath, right? Wow. Esau with Missy. Hey, wow. And Eve, he weave, who breathed the spirit of life into people. Wow, who breathed the spirit of life into the people. Muskogee origin accounts tell of their ancestors emerging from the earth and encountering the forces of fire from the four cardinal directions. The Creek were in awe of the fires and the power of nature over their lives appeared obvious to them. They respected the ways and laws of nature. Nature compelled the people to observe the earth's gifts of life to the plants, which nourished and sheltered the animals, thus enabling all to live. All things were related and belonged to nature's order or system, leading the Muskogee Creek to develop kinship relations with the earth's plants and animals and expressing clans and animisms. Okay, so since I brought up clans right here, I just want to, to all the real people who know the real, like my homeboy Rob Pacana, right? They didn't call themselves Creeks, and Muskogee is really not like the name. That's not. This is all misnomers, but we know who they talking about, right? The people they talking about, right? They had their own tribal names and clans and all this other stuff, right? So astonishingly, the Muskogee Creek survived President Andrew Jackson's policy of removing Indians to territory west of the Mississippi during the 1830s. 30 years later, they endured the American Civil War that brought destruction to their homes in Indian territory. As a tribe, their relationship with Eknev, Mama, right, persisted in spite of the Dawes Act and its amendment, which mandated that their land be carved up and distributed to tribal members. See, they didn't have no concept of dividing land, Mama, dividing Mama. You get it? What do you mean you're gonna divide Mama? You get it? Mother Earth. They didn't have that concept before the Dawes Act and its amendment, which mandated that they had to now carve up their land and distribute it to tribal members in the name of civilization, in the name to be civilized. Right now, the federal corporation that was legitimized by the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and everything else that happened after that. They carried the government, right? 1788 or 1780s, right after that. Yeah. So the corporation. So, in the name of civilization, the Creek would be transformed into individual farmers, which jeopardized tribal identity, caused factionalism, and netted large losses of their new homelands. Right? You see what they did? It's all a plan. It was strategically planned out, and they knew eventually who they wanted to represent the so-called Indian eventually with this system they was creating, right? Disfranchising a certain few, disfranchise them in general as a people, and then eventually by color, right? So traditionalists in the late 1800s who underwent allotment, like Jackson Barnett, felt a loss of spirit and lacked an understanding of the whole situation. Even the wise elders with generations of traditional knowledge did not have an answer, and they blamed the European people for what was happening to them. And again, yeah, a lot of these are pale-skinned people, yeah. Factionalism among the Muskogee Creek has always existed, but fortunately the tribe endured through even the most crucial times. External issues has also threatened tribal unity, especially as more Creek began to live non-traditionally. But in time, the pressure of issues related to the European world, the white world, became more powerful than the internal cohesion of Creek society, creating persistent havoc. Even after their removal from their original homeland in the southeast to lands in the west, the Muskogee Creek waged at least 3 civil wars within their tribe, basically pitting those members favoring more progressive ways against those wanting to retain traditional culture. In 1872, the Sands Rebellion divided the Creek when the majority of the tribe elected Colonel Samuel Chakotay, a mixed blood, right? A mixed blood. You're gonna realize, guys, as we keep learning, and we have shown it many times, and I'll keep doing, I'm gonna even show it in this lady's genealogy that a lot of these representatives already were mixed. What they're saying, full-blood chiefs and all that, is because that's how they, able to assimilate themselves with the Indians, have control of the land, make sure their offspring are put in positions of power, so they can still have some say, right, some control. A lot of the time, not like in an evil way. A lot of time they just marry and having babies, and they basically take advantage of that, right? Your European nature. They trying to survive. They're trying to settle. They ain't trying to go nowhere. And you gotta understand, a lot of that is your other side of your family too. You carry the blood. If you carry in the name and the blood, that's your ancestor. So either way, that's what they're talking about here. People in positions of power that were already like mixed black, like this guy, Colonel Samuel Chakotay, and a former Confederate, right? A Confederate. Who's the Confederates? That's what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of the, the 5 civilized tribes was on the Confederate side. First of all, you guys understand that. So, but there was a lot of Indian. There was a lot of like Choctaw Indian Confederate regiment. I found this in people's genealogy and stuff. So a lot of black folks, Confederates. Most of them. The way they told us history is totally. It's not the way it really went down, guys. Like we got a whole different concept. Either way, it says that chief over Sands, also known as Oktarhatsarharjo, a full-blooded Union or loyal Creek with an estimated 300 supporters. Chakotay prevailed. A decade later, the conservative full-blood attempted another restoration under Isparheched, who led 350 loyal Creek who stayed neutral in the Creek's internal civil war in what was known as the Green Peach War of 1883. Isparheched failed to restore the traditional government and society. Intertribal political problems forced the Muskogee Creek to revise their tribal government. Internally, the primary concern involved maintaining law and order. Externally, the tribe faced continual pressure from the United States to allot their lands. Moreover, both local Europeans, so-called whites, and state governments coveted the lands, hoping to expand white settlement. Eager non-Indians on former Creek lands and in other areas of the territory lobbied congressmen from nearby states to introduce federal legislation for European settlement and Oklahoma statehood. Now, for a lot of you that might have a problem with me not saying always white or just switching it with European, because you'd be surprised how many of these so-called whites are, a lot of them, even if they might be mixed already with Indians, a lot of them are black Europeans. I'm trying to tell you. We start looking at the description and what they really look like and all that, is understanding who they are, and you start doing the genealogy of people ending up being that's their ancestry. Like you guys gotta, I'm telling you. So that's why you gotta dodge the hijack always. This is a modern book, 1950. So where was I? My fault. Lost my place. So the Creek had much to lose. European opportunists did not want the Creek and other Indians to control Oklahoma territory and the new state, having little political influence in Washington. The Creek and other 5 civilized tribes could not muster sufficient outside support for their own state, and they witnessed control of the situation slipping from their grasp. Lawless turmoil followed as bands of Europeans, so-called blacks. See, this is what I'm saying. Crayon colors right here, guys. Whites and blacks, crayon colors. Bands of crayon colors. And other Indians, but you guys kind of, they're just saying everybody, right? And other Indians camped throughout the Muskogee Creek Nation and the rest of Indian territory. Increasing crimes challenged the Creek Light Horse. To maintain peace and order, robbers, murderers, and livestock rustlers plagued the Muskogees and other tribal nations. The Cookson Hills and nearby Cherokee territory became the hideout for local outlaws such as Ned Christie and the famed female outlaw Belle Starr. Although the tribes attempted to maintain tribal laws, their efforts conflicted with the territorial law being enforced from Fort Smith, Arkansas. Outlaws and general disorder undermined Creek authority, which played into the hands of European opportunists who wanted the best lands of the territory for themselves. Simultaneously, federal agents traveled among the Creek to urge acceptance of the allotments. To the disadvantage of the Creek, U.S. Congress entertained legislation in the interest of non-Indians wanting statehood for Oklahoma territory. See how it all connects? We've been reading all this. This is literally what it was saying. This is literally what the AI was saying. Remember the AI conversation I had about her and how the federal government works and what they were doing on the land, right? And the peace treaty and how that allowed all this to start happening, right? Non-Indians wanting the statehood, right? As the end of the troubled 1800s approached, the Creek employed another method of fighting allotment to save the old ways. Soon, the Muskogee Creek entered the courtroom and petitioned Congress to express their support for traditionalism and their opposition to allotment. The Muskogee Creek National Council sent a message to President William McKinley during October 1889. Where was it? Yeah, to remind him of the 18 ratified treaties that the United States had signed with their tribe. During these unstable years, the U.S. Congress passed the Dawes Land Allotment Act in 1887, but it initially excluded the Muskogee Creek and other members of the 5 civilized tribes, many of whom had become successful farmers. The allotment policy individualized Indians for mainstream assimilation. All right, take notes. That's a big one right there. That's a good. The allotment policy individualized Indians for mainstream assimilation with the purpose of dissolving reservations, and the Oklahoma statehood movement appeared to engulf the Creek and other 5 civilized tribes. Wanting to control their own destiny, the Muskogee Creek wrote their own constitution during the early 1890s, consisting of 10 articles that defined their new form of government. One company of light horse would enforce the tribal laws in each Creek town. Working to overcome division within the tribe, the Muskogee Creek realized the need to solidify their nation against the United States, against the corporation. The new constitution enabled the Muskogee Creek to begin regulating their natural resources. Section 376 stipulated that no less than 3 tribal citizens in a group could mine coal in the nation. Section 392 stated that the members had to obtain a license from the treasurer of the nation and file a bond with good security for contracting with any railroad company to furnish ties from timberlands or other materials. Outside pressures for Creek resources convinced the tribe to remain united, but the greater battle proved to be waged amongst tribal members themselves. Continual factionalism, pitting full-blood traditionalists against mixed-blood progressives, listen to what's going on, frustrated the Muskogee Creek, and the momentum of allotment undermined the tribe, causing many families to fragment. Fathers and sons disagreed. Brothers fought each other. Listen, man, wow. And the individual person had to choose between the old ways and the new. You know, there's always hijacks, even in our own families, even in our own people, even in our own neighborhood. There's always gonna be some sellouts. There's always gonna be, oh, this is the new, this is the new way. The young folk, they don't get it yet, right? The young folk, a lot of the young folk, and I'm young still. I'm still learning, but I'm just saying, compared to 18-year-old, 17, 20-year-old, y'all still young at that age, man. You know, y'all might not be making the right decisions right yet. You got a lot of experience to go through. You know, in an effort to protect their people, members of the tribal council passed a resolution in opposition to the allotment of their lands. Section 120 of the resolution, dated November 5th, 1894, stated, "We still believe that the government of the United States will prove true to her many pledges and keep perfect faith with our people, and will aid instead of obstruct our present form of government, to the end that we may enjoy peace and happiness in our sacred home, for which we have paid full compensation." At the close of the 19th century, the sovereignty of the Muskogee Creek was threatened on the political front as well. Politically ambitious European officials of Oklahoma Territory campaigned for statehood, realizing they might be consumed by the movement. The Creek and other members of the 5 civilized tribes pushed for a state of their own, which would be called Sequoia. All right, you guys hear that? That's what they were going to call it. And encompassed the eastern half of Indian Territory. The reservations fought the movement for Oklahoma statehood until Kansas Senator Charles Curtis, a part Ha Osage, see? They're mixed bloods. That's what I'm saying. Everybody's mixed. All these leaders, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. That's what they did in general, guys. Who would become vice president of the United States. What? Charles Curtis, who was part Ka Osage. I mean, how much part, But okay. He became eventually vice president, right? And he introduced the Curtis Act of 1898, a law that negated all the Indian reservations in Indian Territory, except for that of the Osage, who held mineral rights in common as a tribe. As a part of the statehood plan, the territorial legislature introduced a radical bill to relocate all of the Indian population from the eastern half of the territory to the western portion. This proposal threatened to combine the western and eastern tribes, but resistance from the Indian nations prevented this from happening. The Dawes Act that had excluded the 5 civilized tribes, and the Muskogee Creek at least avoided allotment for the next 15 years. Increasing non-Indian support for allotment could not be averted. As other tribes experienced allotment, the Creek realized that the ultimate outcome would be what the ultimate outcome would be. Unable to overcome the European desire for their lands and the government's aggressive policy of allotment, the National Council of the Muskogee Creek in 1893 and 1899 authorized tribal representatives to negotiate with the Dawes Commission and the leaders of the 5 civilized tribes and report back to the council. The Muskogee strove to hold their nation together, but opposition to allotment and the trespassing of Europeans wanting their lands added to the troubles of the tribe. In preparation, Isparhesher, the principal chief, appointed Samuel Haynes, James R. Gregory, Napoleon B. Moore, and Wallace McNack as members of a national committee to help the Dawes Commission in identifying and enrolling the Muskogee Creek for allotment. Finally, special legislation and an amendment approved on March 1st, 1901, mandated that the tribe ratify the allotment agreement by March 25th. Section 7 of the Indian Appropriation Act, passed in 1902, stipulated that any deceased Indian to whom a trust or other patent containing restrictions upon alienation that has been or shall be issued for lands allotted him, his estate may sell and convey lands inherited from such descendant. You guys hear what's going on? So this law proved detrimental to the Creek as they lost more lands and properties, such as homes, and livestock. At 5 o'clock on January 3rd, 1903, 255 Muskogee Creek received the first allotments, and it was not long before others did as well. Frustrated with all the actions launched against them, many Creek refused their allotments, thereby creating surplus lands that, listen to what happened. This is deep right here, because they were protesting that, nah, we don't want your lots, man. So now what happened? Oh, you don't want your lots? Oh, now we got a surplus of lands now, thereby creating a surplus. Lands that could possibly pass to European settlers slash white and land speculators. All right, you guys hear this? See how they played this? Ah, y'all don't want it. We tried it legally. Y'all don't want it. Y'all declining it. Okay. They didn't want to be down with the system. They never voted on that, guys. That was the corporation, thanks to the treaty, right? William Folke, a journalist for Outlook magazine, reported on the fraud consuming the creek, describing the debauchery committed by Europeans and the land sharks who were cheating the Muskogees out of their allotted lands due to the carelessness of the federal government, the corporation. Of course, they don't care. The task of supervising Indian land distribution was monumental, and any mistakes occurred unfairly at the expense of the Indians. The allotment program officials continued assigning allotments to the creek and established the tribal roll, later known as the Dawes Roll. That's why I told you there's a lot of hijacking this Dawes Roll, guys. I said that literally the other day or yesterday, right? Or the other day, right? 2 days ago. The Muskogee government initially made the roll with the help of an Indian agent, and the Secretary of the Interior and the Commissioner of Indian Affairs reviewed the roll for final approval. As early as 1901, Chito Harjo, a full-blood Creek, supposedly, right, urged resistance against allotment and the ways of the European people. This last patriotic fight for traditionalism became known as the Crazy Snake Rebellion. All right, that's where you get the Crazy Snake Rebellion, right? Also known by the name of Wilson Jones Harjo. I told you he had a different, that's what I said, supposedly full-blood, right? Harjo was a town Miko Creek king, a member of the House of Kings in the Muskogee Creek National Council. Born in 1846, he grew up among the Upper or Loyal Creek, who sided with the Union during the American Civil War, fighting to protect themselves against Confederate soldiers. In protest to the allotment, Harjo led 94 Snake followers who took their name from one of the Creek clans, attempting to establish a new Creek government based on ancient tribal laws of Ignev, right, mama? The Snakes gathered at Old Hickory Stomp Ground, 5 miles east of Henrietta, Oklahoma. All right, the Snakes, the Nagas, the Drakons, they gathered, yo. They like, you guys knew there was a Snake clan? Yeah. Says Harjo himself lived 12 miles east of Henrietta at the foot of Tiger Mountain. As the Snakes gathered, U.S. troops and federal marshals were ordered in, and the two sides fought near Seminole and Wewoka. All right, so again, now this corporation is legitimized because of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And remember what we learned, AI snitched, and we got the whole drop, how that helped and benefited this corporation. It allowed them to be able to fund themselves and create an army. And remember that we have read already before in many books that this army was originally created to fight internally, not foreigners, not for defense, but to fight internally, meaning the nations, the first peoples, the indigenous people. That's what all these armies were and navies were created for. These U.S. troops, these federal marshals, all these park rangers, bounties, all that, Mounties, all that is they're going after the Indians. And you see, this was a perfect example of that, right? The action of the Snakes incited Choctaw traditionalists to oppose allotments, and federal officials had to use force to defeat them as well. Immersed in turmoil, the House of Warriors of the Muskogee Creek government passed a series of 25 laws on December 7th, 1903, to maintain the strength of the government. Harjo had been a member of the government, and his actions divided both the tribal government and the communities. Finally, breaking the strength of the snakes, federal officials arrested Harjo and some of his followers, and court charges were filed against them. Federal court convicted them. Although Harjo and the snakes continued to voice their opposition, claiming that allotment officials cheated their tribespeople during the assignments of land, they had a legitimate reason for their rebellion, guys. Their protests fell on deaf ears as non-Indians and pro-allotment Indians campaigned for Oklahoma Territory to become a state in the Union. The sellouts, the pro, and don't think that doesn't include some colored folks in that, those pro allotment Indians, guys. I'm trying to tell you, yo, you gotta go case by case individually, right? The Muskogee Creek continued to suffer at the hands of European opportunists and the devastating allotment program. Confused and bitter, they felt a horrible injustice had been done to them. In a letter dated 1904, the National Council appealed to President Theodore Roosevelt for help. As a people, we have kept our faith with the U.S. government. Knowing your intense honesty, your hatred of shams, we turn to you, Mr. President, feeling that you will understand us better than Congress. You know the West. You know our hopes and our ambitions. And we appeal again to your sense of justice and fair dealing. The council failed. In 1906, Indian Territory joined with Oklahoma Territory as non-Indian officials happily anticipated statehood. The growing interest in Oklahoma and the statehood movement convinced Cheeto Harjo and several of his snakes to make one last effort and plan a delegation to Washington. The delegates insisted that the Treaty of 1832 be upheld and believed that they had won a victory. Government officials opposed the snakes' intentions, but Harjo insisted that the justice would prevail. In Washington, little concern was given to the Muskogee and other Indian groups, although a special Senate investigating committee surveyed the old Indian Territory to evaluate Indian progress. On November 23, 1906, the Senate committee held a hearing in Tulsa for the purpose of hearing from the creek. Where? In Tulsa, right? Tulsa, Oklahoma. Where? They having it there for, right? Isn't that a so-called black town? Isn't Tulsa a so-called black town at this point? Why they having it there? You understand? In a plea on behalf of his people, the future generations, Cheeto Harjo spoke against the allotment program. Clutching his hat in his hands with a sober look on his face, his eyes sincere, he stood before the committee to speak. Now I hear the government is cutting up my land, giving it away to other people. Giving it away, It can't be so, for it is not the treaty. The people, who are they? They have no right to this land. Who are these people? It never was given to them. It was given to me and my people, and we paid for it with our land back in Alabama. Right? You took our land back in Alabama. You said we would be cool over here in Oklahoma. You said this wouldn't happen over here. You guys understand what he's saying? The black and white people have no right to it. Listen to what he's saying. He's saying this colored folks and this pale skin, there's all kinds of people as pioneers, right? Black and white are crayon colors. We're not talking about genealogy when we're saying black and white, right, guys? Like, again, remember, all skin folk ain't kin folk, all white folk ain't the same either. And who's these black, who's these white? Let's see their genealogy. Let's get specific, right? Because we dodged the hijack with that part, but it's trying to tell you something here, right? He's not just complaining about one color now invading. Then how can it be that the government is doing this? It would be justice. I am informed and believe it to be true that some citizens of the United States have title to land that was given to my fathers and my people by the government. If it was given to me, what right has the United States to take it from me without first asking my consent? So again, we don't know who he's talking about. They could be a little Indian. They could be Indians too, coming over, being relocated and trying to get, who knows, man. The whole history right behind everybody. So during the next several weeks, Harjo waited to testify against the allotment policy before a Senate committee. He realized the sovereign significance of the treaties between his tribe and the United States, right? The corporation. He iterated the rights of his people under the treaties and described the relationship between his people and the United States as positive until the Civil War. So, right, he's talking about 1830s, right? That the corporation's already created by then. Who they making treaties with, guys? With the corporation, not the United States people. In summary, the fight to save the old ways in opposition to European settlers wanting allotment of Indian lands produced skirmishes at Hickory Ground and Wewoka. Exaggerating these events, the Oklahoma City Daily Oklahoman, the Muskogee Daily Phoenix, the Ufala Indian Journal, and other regional newspapers described the hostilities as an Indian war. Rumors circulated that black freedmen had joined the Snakes. Hey, there's blacks in the Snakes, huh? Oh, rumors has it that there's black freedmen in the Snakes. Well, how about if the Snakes were already originally so-called black freedmen or free people of color? They are Indians, they are free, right? But we get what they're saying. There's others. Yeah, okay. So they might be Indians, these so-called black freedmen, right? So they joined the Snakes, right? They family, right? They people. In an all-out war against the European settlers, provoking them to arm themselves and travel in mobs in search of the Snakes and freedmen. In the end, federal marshals in Loyal Creek defeated Harjo and his Snakes, arresting almost all of them. Swept under by a new era of change, Crazy Snake died in April 1911 at the house of Choctaw friend Daniel Bob. All right. Daniel Bob. So this is what's going on. We're getting some details of some of these historical events, right? So it says, filled with confusion and anger against the European people, Cheeto Harjo, through his loyalty to tribal ways, inspired other traditionalists of the 5 civilized tribes, mostly full-blood Cherokees, formed a secret society known as the Pin Indians, huh? Full-blood Cherokees? Okay. Well, I like to see who you're talking about, and I like to see their genealogy. I know you guys just want to say, come on, Kurimeo, just let them be full-blood. Just let them be, man. Why you got to start conjecturing, man? It's because I have too much experience in doing a lot of people's genealogy that say they're full-blood and then turn out to not really be full-blood. It's okay, though, But look how they're saying they formed a secret society known as the Pin Indians, huh? Secret society, huh? So named because they were insignias proclaiming their opposition to allotment. Their membership reached approximately 5,000 full-bloods under the Cherokee leader, Redbird Smith. Oh, Redbird Smith. So why you got a Smith? He's a full-blood, but he's a snake. He got a last. Oh, and they call themselves the Ketowa Society. The Ketowa Society. Yeah, we're going to look into that, right? A Muskogee Creek hostile to allotment, Eufaula Harjo helped Smith to unite other Creek, Cherokee, and supporters from the Chickasaw and Choctaw to join them. Either way, these people are trying to make sure the allotment doesn't happen. This, what's going on. With members from all the 4 tribes, they then called themselves the Four Mothers Society. Seeking ways to escape the allotment experience, they sent a delegation to Washington to convince the federal government to let them keep their community usage of land and traditional customs. The government denied this request. Furthermore, although members of the Four Mothers Society had struck an agreement to buy land from Mexico, the United States refused to give them permission to sell their allotments. Unable to succeed in these efforts, the traditionalists had to remain in their communities, feeling the paternalistic pressure of the federal government controlling their lives. On May 21st, 1908, the Senate passed legislation to remove restrictions from part of the lands of the allottees of the 5 civilized tribes. The federal government listed Creek tribal members alphabetically, according to degree of Creek blood. In addition, the Dawes roll included Creek freedmen who had moved with the Creek to Indian territory, and they were regarded as part of the Creek tribe. So they're trying to say, oh, they included black folks. See, this is when we gotta touch the hijack with the Dawes roll. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of hijack. But eventually they literally admitted, but they were regarded as part of the Creek tribe because they were, right? The next major problem occurred when the allotments of several Muskogee Creek were found to have large pools of oil. Oh, now there's money involved, which soon brought the Indians windfalls of royalty payments. Instantly wealthy, these individuals began buying anything that they wanted. So look, now picture like a lot of the Indians and black folks getting paid, right? All of a sudden they bored, they're going through so much thing. They've gone through relocation, the people, all that. Servitude, Indian indentures, all that, right? Relocation, reclassification, murder, enslavement, racist violence, and now they got money. Now they got paid. And what did they do? What some humans in this society, most humans will start doing is blow the money, right? They were instantly wealthy. These individuals began buying anything that they wanted. The easy acquisition of European goods was very disruptive, threatening the traditional cultural values these Indians had known from birth. It's just like the movie I saw with Leonardo DiCaprio, the recent one, right? We did with the Native American, right? And how they were like assimilating, right? And whoever was left over was really, following the ways of the settlers, right, or the so-called white folks, right, and getting drunk, and then they were getting murdered, and eventually and being replaced. It was really happening here, man. So Wozie John Deere, a Muskogee Creek woman, roll number 9546, had oil on her land to her misfortune. With her windfall and under the custody of her dishonest guardian, listen, W.J. Cole of Sapulpa, Oklahoma, she invested in cattle of high breed. On one occasion, she ordered the butchering of one of her bulls worth $500 simply to eat him. Once word of Wozie's newfound wealth spread, she was harassed at every turn by designing persons wishing to use any possible means to take advantage of her. One of those persons was her alleged guardian, Cole, who forced her to divorce her husband, Albert Deere. She could not read or write, and friends found her beaten up on one occasion. Wow. In another situation, the death of Willie Berryhill left a sizable estate of more than 40,000 that his heirs fought over. Another wealthy Muskogee Creek used his newfound wealth to purchase a wooden horse as an ornament for his yard, and then purchased 2 phonographs to play just 2 records. Henry Ford's Tin Lizzie soon caught the attention of wealthy Muskogee Creek, and some wanted the best automobiles made. All right, you see? Lucinda Pittman of the Pittmans, right? These are colored folks. A wealthy Creek who lived in Muskogee wanted a Cadillac, but did not like the available color. The cars were customarily black. Lucinda selected an item of a very unusual color at a store in Muskogee and demanded that the salesman at the Cadillac dealership paint the car that shade. In addition, she wanted it upholstered in matching material. This odd request confounded the Cadillac salesman, but he finally acquiesced to the demands of the rich Creek woman. In the following weeks, stunned people watched her oddly colored Cadillac, leaving a trail of dust on the road around Muskogee. And she frequently traveled to Tulsa and Oklahoma City, right? These are all black towns, guys. Among rich Indians in Oklahoma, she made the Cadillac a popular car, and the company profited from Lucinda Pittman's unusual choice of color. Soon, pink, crimson, and sea green automobiles became the trend throughout Oklahoma and indeed the United States. See, it had to be an Indian. It had to be an Indian to tell them, hey, can you add some color to this, man? Can you add some color? Now it became a thing, right? How much they pay her for that? Nothing, right? Like, ah, she's rich anyways. Eastman Richards, a tall full blood. There you go. Everybody's a full blood, but he's a Richards, right? Was another wealthy Muskogee Creek. His allotment of barren land proved useless for farming or raising stock, but oil underground brought him unmeasured wealth. On September 7, 1923, Eastman generously donated 50,000 to the American Baptist Home Mission Society for Bacone College. Frustrated in his dealings with the non-Muskogee Creek, he surrounded himself with family and friends and financed the development of his own town. Against the advice of his guardian, he chose a site in McIntosh County in Oklahoma and had the town that would bear his name, Richardsville, constructed for an estimated 1 million. In later years, the town disintegrated from lack of activity. Hey, science, did we run into that? Sounds familiar, Richardsville. Did we run into that when we did your genealogy? One of the several Muskogee Creek exploited for their royalty money was Katie Fishiko of Okmulgee, a full-blood Muskogee Creek. There we go, another full-blood. Katie had an estate worth of 1 million from oil royalty payments. She married John Daniels, who signed a petition declaring that she was competent to handle her own business affairs. But 11 days later, he asked that she be declared legally incompetent. Wow. So they went and probably talked to the husband and say, hey, why you say that, man? Why you say that? Oh, you're not going to be part of the club, man. You ain't going to be part of the club. You're going to let the woman run the, I bet you. So now all of a sudden, his own wife is incompetent now. During the period of uncertainty that ensued, the Exchange Trust Company of Tulsa was made guardian of Katie's estate. But fraud had already been committed, and Katie Fishiko Daniels was built out of 80,000 by her former guardian, V.V. Morgan, and an unscrupulous attorney. Again, Tulsa. I just want to say, guys, at this time, that's black folks. This is a black town. So who's working in this Exchange Trust Company of Tulsa? I'm just saying, man. Remember, all skinfolk ain't kinfolk. The most famous case of allotment fraud among the Muskogee Creek involved Jackson Barnett. All right, you hear that, science? The most famous case of allotment fraud. In 1842, at Buzzard Hill, along the Canadian River at Buzzard Hill, right? Jackson Barnett was born to Saya and Tlesophile Barnett. Jackson, who had a half-brother named Tecumseh, had a difficult young life but learned to survive. He received an allotment of 160 acres. The Dawes Roll listed him as number 4524. I bet you we saw that, huh? We did see that. Age 48, from Takabachi Town, there you go, of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Just like Brother Rob, right? Rob's people from there too. He grew up in obscurity as a conservative full-blood. Well, was he? That's what I'm saying. Like me and Science know that, yeah, he has some European in him. So, because we did the genealogy, guys. All right. So, let's just go with the full blood thing either way, right? So a conservative full blood and had joined the Snake faction for a while, which opposed allotment of tribal land. As the years passed, Jackson continued to live on his land outside of Henrietta. His life was quiet, rather peaceful, with the usual trips into town. Jackson Barnett obtained his riches when an oil company discovered oil in 1912 beneath his otherwise worthless allotted land, said to be so rocky and barren that it would not even support a jackrabbit. So this is the same case as Sarah Rector, the richest colored girl, in Muskogee, right, as well, so-called Muskogee, right, Creek. Same thing. They gave all these people the worst lands, guys. They gave these black folks and Indians the worst lands, and then all of a sudden, they were the best lands because they had oil, right? They turned into the best land, but they was really worthless like before that. In 1912, a field clerk helped Jackson lease his allotment to an oil company. A field clerk, huh? Another company that also wanted his land succeeded in establishing his incompetency, and the Okmulgee County Court appointed him a guardian named Carl J. O'Hornet. Look what they're doing, and secured an Another lease for the Barnett Allotment. Wow. The two oil companies compromised on a settlement, and the drilling for oil on Jackson's land commenced in the Cushion Field. The two companies paid royalties to the Creek Agency to be invested in Liberty bonds or paid to O'Hornet for Jackson's living expenses. In spite of his accumulating wealth, grown by each day, the traditionalist Jackson Barnett continued to live a humble existence near Henrietta. In 1919, Jackson Barnett consented to donate $25,000 to build a Baptist church in Henrietta. A Baptist church, huh? People soon learned about his wealth, and one preacher in Muskogee thought that Jackson could easily give 200,000 and stated that if we do not get this money, the lawyers and the Interior Department will. You guys hear that? The preacher, the preacher said, "Hey, listen, man, they're gonna take all his money because they saying he's incompetent. They already know the game. They're like, yo, the preacher, you already know the preacher. Hey, listen, I don't get in, don't feel any way if I say it, but a lot of these preachers, right? They out there hustling everybody, right? They out there hustling a lot of people, the church folks, and look at this guy. He's like, hey, I'd rather take the 200,000 than these white folks take that. That's what he's saying, the preacher man. Hey, if we do not get this money, the lawyers in the Interior Department will get it, as they have always done. During December, the Baptists sent a committee to discuss the proposed donation with Cato Sells, the commissioner of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Wow. They made it an official meeting with Indian Affairs. Then on February 11, 1920, Gabe E. Parker, the superintendent of Indian Affairs at Muskogee, said that the department approved of a plan to devote half of Jackson's, look at this, listen to this, man, 1,500,000, so half of that, to charities, which included a hospital for Indians at Henrietta. At one point, 3 persuasive individuals and a minister convinced Jackson to donate the money. Commissioner Sells was convinced that Barnett sincerely wanted to do this. Unable to write his name, Jackson signed the paperwork with his thumbprint. Wow. The news of the old full-blood and others like him became locally famous as word spread that oil was making them rich. Learning about the wealthy elderly Creek Indian, an attractive brunette named Anna Laura Lowe decided to meet the rich Barnett, and that's the lady in the picture, right, in the thumbnail that I showed you guys. Let's go back to it real quick. Oh, she had a lot of, it was very convenient. She had a lot of convenience in this relationship. There you go. That's her right there, you see? Just like in the movie, with Leonardo DiCaprio, the recent one, I forget, the flower, something of the flowers, right? How they were marrying and then eventually they would take over the estate, literally. They spent all the money. Like, yeah, all right, let's go back. Let's go back. You guys following along, you guys enjoying the reading. Hope you're enjoying the reading. Thanks for tuning in. Flowers of the full moon, yeah, something like that. You're, hey man. So he met this lady, Anna Laura Lowe, decided to meet the rich Barnett. In an investigation a few years later, an attorney from New York reported to Cato Sells that the dark-haired woman actually schemed to kidnap Jackson Barnett and had talked to several people about helping her. She met Barnett for the first time on January 30, 1920. On the following day, she arrived at his house in a taxi and drove him and a black caretaker to Okema, where Jackson thought she was taking him to a store. Oh man, she wanted payday. Dang. Annie Lowe gave Jackson whiskey on the way to Okema that Jackson refused to drink, and that thereupon she turned the bottle up to his lips and practically forced the liquor down him. Lowe wanted to obtain a marriage license but was refused at Okema. She then had the taxi drive them to Holdenville, the county seat of the next county, but the clerk there also refused her. Later that day, she told Jackson's guardian, Carl O'Hornet, that she loved Barnett and intended to marry him. O'Horney did not believe her and opposed the plan of marriage. During the evening of February 22nd, Lowe returned at 9 o'clock with a man and his wife. They persuaded Jackson to get into their car and told the black caretaker that Jackson would be back the next morning. The threesome and Barnett drove all night to Coffeyville, Kansas, where Anna Lowe obtained a marriage license. Wow. In the city of Independence. Yo, did we run into that? That's crazy. Science. We run into that marriage license. Next, she found a justice of the peace named Bickett to marry them at the Metropolitan Roman House in Coffeyville. Bickett later reported that Jackson Barnett had likely been given whiskey and appeared doped during the brief marriage ceremony. Lowe took Jackson to Missouri for a second marriage to ensure that she really was the new and wealthy Miss Jackson Barnett, protecting her greedy interests before the second wedding. Lowe and her attorney, Harold McGugan, one-time Republican candidate for governor of Kansas, convinced Barnett to thumbmark a letter that rescinded his earlier generous donations. Wow. The investigating attorney had discovered that Annie Laura Lowe was a scoundrel and a prostitute. Whoa. She had been married twice before, and during 1914, 1915, and part of 1916, she worked the hotels in Tulsa to find rich men. During the rest of 1916 and 1917, she did the same in Kansas City. In 1918 and 1919, she traveled to the oil fields in Oklahoma and Texas, looking for men who had struck it rich. At least a half-dozen bellboys at various hotels swore that they were hired for Lowe as go-betweens to arrange her dates, and hotel clerks, a manager, and an assistant manager supported claims that Lowe was a manipulating prostitute. One house detective said that he threw her out of a hotel. On one occasion, Lowe bilked a man in Kansas City bailed out probably, out of $5,000 in cash by drugging him. Oh, wow. Oh, bilked, okay. Wow, this lady's crazy. Going rapidly through this money due to her taste for expensive clothes and high living, she also attempted to blackmail an oilman. In 1916 and 1917, she had her clutches on two wealthy part Cherokee Indians as well. Wow, this lady, definitely a movie. They should make a movie of her, right? The Commissioner of Indian Affairs and Carl O'Horney tried to annul the marriage, but Jackson Barnett seemed content with it and convinced them to temporarily drop their suit. Yeah, because he's getting in May, Mrs. Barnett Jackson and Mrs. Barnett's 16-year-old daughter arrived at the agency to request a larger monthly allowance. But their request was initially denied. They also wanted to build a house in Muskogee, but County Judge Hugh L. Murphy of Okmulgee County denied their wish. While the judge and the agency discussed the request, the Barnetts traveled to Muskogee to look for a place to buy. Wirt Randolph of Winewood, Oklahoma, who was also Mrs. Barnett's brother, accompanied the couple and represented their business interests in looking at the Buhl Place, located 4.5 miles northwest of Muskogee. Mr. Buell wanted to sell the house and the furniture inside since it was especially designed and installed by Mr. Tupi of Kansas City. During November and December, the Barnetts attracted publicity from the newspapers reporting on Jackson's wealth as the press watched their every action. That's the newspapers I showed you earlier, right? That's them. That's why I told you that's them in that picture. During the night, the Barnetts moved their household goods to Muskogee, having purchased a house and filled it with furniture. O'Horney and Judge Murphy agreed to increase the Barnetts' living allowance to $2,500 per month. The publicity surrounding Jackson Barnett made him a target for many opportunists, and some were persistent. On December 18, 1920, the opportunistic Casey succeeded in getting Barnett into Reverend Cameron's office in Henrietta to reinstate his donations to the Baptist organization. Wow. All the confusion compelled Victor Locke, superintendent of the 5 civilized tribes, to send a memorandum prepared by his law clerk and a second memorandum to the Interior Department, stating that Barnett had been adjudged incompetent, wow, by one of the courts in Oklahoma, and that he had a guardian, Carl O'Hornet. The relationship between the probate courts of Oklahoma and the Interior Department were in conflict. Mrs. Barnett's attorney, McGugan, met with the special assistant to the Attorney General to prepare a petition to BIA Commissioner Charles H. Burke, saying that Barnett's guardian had failed him. McGugan arranged for the Barnetts to go to Washington to speak to the Commissioner Burke about their needs and the unhelpful guardian O'Hornet. During 1921, one report related that Mrs. Barnett and an attorney named McGugan had Jackson drinking and in an automobile. A bystander remarked that as McGugan and Miss Barnett were giving Jackson some air, McGugan remarked, "Yes, we are airing him out in the car and we are going to air him out of some money." Huh, wow. See, you see how they were getting him drunk and making him go into all these deals and sign and put his thumb on everything? Yo, this is crazy right here. With her attorney's help, Mrs. Barnett arranged to receive Liberty bonds in the amount of $550,000. Then she created a trust for Jackson. Next, she turned over to McGugan as his portion of the distribution bonds were $125,000 or perhaps more. Wow. During these months, Mrs. Barnett also looked for a private girls' school for her daughter, Maxine Lowe Barnett, and applied to Miss Barstow's school in Kansas City with the understanding that Jackson would pay for all the expenses. All during this time, the marriage seemed dubious. A legal petition had been filed against it, provoking Ms. Barnett to take Jackson to Washington, D.C. to see Commissioner of Indian Affairs Burke in order to arrange the division of Barnett's estate in the amount of $1,100,000. Wow. Half going to his wife and the other half to a school for orphans in Oklahoma. What? A school for orphans? Say what? Yo, she's not just a prostitute. They're downplaying her role. This is like Lewis and Clark that we were learning. How the AI was telling us these were intelligence. These people were work for the government. How can she have connections to go to talk to the Commissioner of Indian Affairs, Burke? What's all this corruption going on? She's not just a prostitute, guys. Yeah, she played the prostitute role. That's how she got the interest of all, whenever she needed to get something really done or a deal sealed, right? She knew how to she play her womanhood, right? But what I'm saying is, look at the corruption. And now you build a school for orphans? You mean for the incubator babies? You mean for the orphan trained people that were coming from New York? Literally, we found newspapers. I read them to you guys. Literally arriving in Oklahoma. Orphans arriving in Oklahoma. Oh, you guys forgot that video? You remember that video, right? This is crazy right here. This is like, all right. Again, so this book will be in my Patreon page. If you want to support me that way, I'm gonna share this on my Patreon page in case you like to, go ahead. We're gonna try to review most of the book, in due time. But check it out. Orphans in Oklahoma, huh? Jackson signed the paperwork with his thumbprint. So, wow, you see where they're getting the money for these orphans, moving them around, and the chasers, they ain't playing, man. Wow. Jackson signed the paperwork with his thumbprint, of course. In July 1922, a solicitor for the Interior Department rendered a legal opinion that the department, not the probate court, had authority over Jackson Barnett and his estate, thus the donations would be carried out. The conflict between the probate court and the Interior Department resulted in a court case in the U.S. District Court of New York, heard by John Knox. The judge ruled that fraud had occurred regarding the generous donation and ordered that they would not be carried out. Furthermore, because Jackson had, at the insistence of his wife, been declared to be incompetent by a court of California and Oklahoma, and guardians of the person and estate were then appointed, that property of Barnett should remain in the custody of the Secretary of the Interior. So again, look how they're treating this guy. They're saying he's incompetent, like he can't make his own decisions. And when you read the Wikipedia, it says that he fell when he was a kid, and something happened to him when he was a kid, and so he wasn't all there. That's what they're saying. That they treated him like he was a complete like they were taking advantage of like if you take advantage of a special ed person, like a person that has special needs, right? This is like how they're literally treating him when they call him incompetent. And they had this crazy story. So that property of Barnett should remain in the custody of the Secretary of the Interior, huh? Judge Knox appointed Elmer Bailey as Jackson's new guardian. Look at all the corruption, man. And questioned Jackson before making his decision about the case. Man, corruption going on. A sample of the judge's question and Jackson's answers follows. And what about the money while you were alive? Question, answer, I am going to keep it and eat of it. Question, what was that? Answer, I am going to keep it and eat off it all the time while I live. Question, do you know where that money is now? Answer, no. Question, did you ever make a gift to this school, Baconi, giving them the money after you died? Answer, I do not know. Question, do you remember having signed any papers? Answer, I do not know. To get a better understanding of the situation, before making his decision, Judge Knox called Jackson to the stand. Jackson did not understand the nature of the oath, so the bailiff did not swear him in to testify. Based on the answers to his questions, Judge Knox stated that he, Jackson, is a harmless, kindly, mentally undeveloped man. Wow. Who was extremely bored at the court proceedings and had no comprehension of their significance. He was able to impart information as to where he lived, as to the number of and type of his automobiles, and that he was possessed of several cow ponies. He was aware too of his ownership of a farm of about 70 acres, and that he had another piece of property on which there was an oil well. Also that money came to him from the oil well, but he did not know the amount of his income. When asked if he had any idea of $1 million, he answered, no. News about the Jackson Barnett case reached Congress, and some members informed President Calvin Coolidge that the Department of Justice intervened on Barnett's behalf due to the government's responsibility to a ward of the state, leading to forthcoming court cases in the District of Columbia, suits against Mrs. Barnett in California, and suits against her attorneys in Oklahoma and Kansas. In Oklahoma, a state Supreme Court decided that O'Hornet and Bailey were illegally appointed guardians for Jackson Barnett, and those appointments were nullified. In the end, Jackson was named in the proceedings of more than 21 cases. In most of these cases, the old full-blood was questioned and subjected him to mental testing. To escape publicity, Mrs. Barnett moved herself and her wealthy husband to Southern California in 1923, where they purchased a house that one newspaper reported cost $100,000. For the next 5 years, the Barnetts lived in splendor, although Jackson's estate continued in the state of legal limbo. A court in Oklahoma subpoenaed Jackson in 1926 and charged him with contempt, for ignoring a summons for the proper supervision and protection of his estate. Wow. A new date of September 27, 1926 was set for a grand jury hearing in Muskogee, Oklahoma. The court ordered a marshal from the state to deliver Jackson Barnett for the trial, which involved two issues. One, an accounting of property said to be in excess of $1 million. The other, seeking an annulment of the Indians' marriage, charging fraud, undue influence. Mrs. Barnett attempted to drag Jackson away from Deputy Marshal Bailey and the policemen, while degrading them by yelling, "Oklahoma bandits, highwaymen, and robbers." She also refused to listen to the writ of summons from the court. An outraged Mrs. Barnett hired attorneys to protest to federal judge R.L. Williams that her husband was kidnapped and that the summons improperly named only Jackson Barnett. Declared an incompetent by the county court of Okmulgee, Jackson was under the jurisdiction of the court. Ms. Barnett's lawyers claimed she should also have been summoned. They dragged him right off the porch, without giving him time to so much as pack his bag. exclaimed Mrs. Barnett. She threatened that she warned against the long drive. Sorry, I guess so. She threatened that the doctor said Jackson, 76 years old at the time, was ill, and she warned against the long drive to Oklahoma. My husband was a sick man, she said. If they attempt to drive to Oklahoma, I think the trip will kill him. This is messed up what's going on to him personally, right? Like, this is messed up, yo. However, Bailey drove Jackson to San Bernardino and put him on a train to Muskogee. Angry at the court action, Mrs. Barnett stormed at Oklahoma to take her husband back to California. Arriving on a warm August day, Mrs. Barnett registered at the Severs Hotel in downtown Muskogee, demanding to see her husband. Immediately, she had the marshal arrange a meeting with Jackson. The marshal took precautions and decided to hold the meeting in his office. Learning about Miss Barnett's arrival, news reporters gathered at the Severs Hotel hoping for an interview. One reporter knocked at her door and had it slammed in his face. "You won't see me," she shouted, while locking the door. "You can't get your information regarding Jackson Barnett from the Oklahoma Outlaw." While in custody of the court, Jackson wanted to remain in Muskogee at the farmhouse that he had purchased a few years earlier. Deputy Bailey said that Jackson had told him that he was homesick and that his wife would not let him visit Oklahoma for 3 years. You hear what's going on with him, man? This is so messed up what they were doing to him. Everybody, that's so messed up, Signs. See what's going on, Signs, with one of your ancestors, man? Damn. Or, relatives. Deputy Bailey said that the Jackson had told, okay, we got that. "I was glad to see the officers that came to arrest me," said Jackson. He was glad to leave California. The next morning, he asked to see his farmhouse, a bungalow of small stone design located on several acres of 48th and Okmulgee streets on the west side of Muskogee. "It is the only house he really loved in the world," said the deputy. The marshal's office arranged to drive Jackson to his farm and had a green roadster waiting for him. And Deputy Bailey, meanwhile, Miss Barnett, was hunting for Jackson. Leaving the federal building, she saw him and flew down the steps toward the car. "Jackson, Jackson, I want to see you," she cried. Jackson grinned without saying a word as the car backed up and drove away. He then motioned for the green roadster to go faster. Yeah, look what's going on. He said, yo, go. She's crazy, man. Yo, hurry up and take me, hurry up. Yo, go faster. Yo, this is crazy right here. They should definitely do a movie on this. Wow. Wow. He said everybody is human and related. Monochromatic blues. All right, man. We don't, yeah. No, but everybody's not related, man. If you want to go back to Adam and Eve, yeah, all right. You want to generalize. We don't do that here. We get specific with specific history, because when you're talking about history, people get specific and they start stereotyping and generalizing with wrong, false information in history. That's why we get specific here with real primary sources and real genealogy. So don't come here where everybody's related. Okay, Adam and Eve. Okay, I get it. I get what you mean. Okay, whatever. Anyways. So he said, "Hey, drive faster." He then motioned for the green to go faster. In a rage, Miss Barnett, who was wearing a dashing dress with a tiny white hat pulled down over her coal-black hair, reportedly made quite a scene. Back in Oklahoma, Jackson was at peace. His mind and soul were reunited with Eknef, right, Mother Earth, where he could touch the earth and smell the cut hay in the wind. Separated from his brethren Muskogee Creek, he at least was with the homeland again for a while. "I just soon not have money. I like horse, pigs, and hogs. I stay here and run my farm. Woman, she can go away. I live with Caesar," farm caretaker, right? That's what we call Cecil Elliott. "We run farm all right. That's the only thing I know. She got a lot of money now. Henry Rowan had a lot of money. So have I. Don't think something happened. Don't take no chance," said Jackson. Full of plans, Jackson wanted to cut down the brush around his farm and buy new furniture for the house. Mrs. Barnett had plans of her own. "I won't turn my husband back to those bloodhounds," she threatened. "I'm going to take care of him. I'm fond of him. I guess I picked him out for a husband. And I didn't kidnap him, as they say. All they want is his money. People always writing to him in California asking for donations. He doesn't know enough to avoid all of them. Mrs. Barnett vowed to fight the court decreed separation of their marriage to the end, but the government said that the divorce proceedings would not be necessary since the marriage was performed without the consent of Jackson Barnett's guardian. At the end of August, a determined Mrs. Barnett moved with Jackson at the farmhouse and ordered it completely refurnished by a furniture store in downtown Muskogee. However, Mrs. Barnett declined to say whether she had come back to Muskogee to live permanently. So she couldn't win, so she's like, I guess I have to move over there because he ain't moving. During 1926, the grand jury hearing began and similar cases were developing elsewhere. As the proceedings started, a new witness, J.J. Johnson, the hotel operator at Okema, testified that he was the driver of the automobile used to take Jackson and Anna Laura Lowe to be married in the famous kidnapping case. The wicked spirits will always keep... Sure, all right, whatever, man. You get out of here with your subliminal talk, man. You think I don't know? I have every... Man, get out of here, man. Never have seen you in... All right, whatever, man. Got your 5 minutes of fame. The wicked spirits. Like, what are you talking about? We're reading a chapter in this book. You're talking about wicked. What are you being subliminal? Y'all come here being subliminal, and I don't know what y'all talking about. When you could easily be talking shit, right? Just be direct, guys. If not, you're gonna get timed out or get out of here. Especially if you just said something that generous and I just corrected you, and now you're saying that right after. Like, I don't know, you ain't being subliminal, man. All right, now you can go. You got blocked, so don't even try to write because you won't be seen. Thank you for your opinions. Only Most High can judge me, not you, man. As the Barnett case proceeded, other Muskogee Creeks also shared local knowledge involving the estates of Effie Fife, Katie Fishico, Eastman Richards, Janeda Marshall, Wozie Deer, and Marty Lee Mudd in court. Muskogee Creek Chief C.W. Hill sent a message to the nation stating that these individuals and all Creek needed legal protection. For these wealthy Muskogee Creek, money only brought disaster and disruption to their lives, leading to exploitation, abuse, and court litigation. The white society money brought only temporary happiness but caused permanent harm. In 1928, a federal grand jury in Muskogee investigated criminal charges against Charles Burke and Albert Fall, but the Department of Justice dismissed the case. Later in 1928-1929, a committee of the U.S. Senate called for a full investigation of the handling of Jackson Barnett's affairs. No government officials were found guilty of wrongdoing, and Barnett proved himself to be fundamentally well aware of the situation, even though all the investigation was conducted in the alien white system of justice. To support their extravagant lifestyle in the white world, the Barnetts requested extra money from Jackson's trust fund at Christmas, asking for $6,000 in 1928. Man, that's a lot of money for back then, right? Jackson Barnett spent his remaining years in Southern California. In Los Angeles, many remembered him pretending to direct streams of traffic on Wilshire Boulevard from the corner sidewalk outside his expensive home. Wow. He was really bored there, guys. Like, this is messed up, man. This is like the sad story for me. Yeah. The windfall money from his oil made Barnett wealthy beyond belief and brought drastic changes to his life. His wealth propelled him into a bewildering world where he felt alienated from the American mainstream, even as his new lifestyle ostracized him from his own people, the Muskogee Creek. Jackson Barnett surely felt alone and outcasted, a feeling that goes against the Indians. Social emphasis. We're supposed to socialize, not be against each other, man. On belonging to a people and to Mother Earth, right? To maintain a perspective for security's sake, his personal interests remained the same in spite of his wealth. He had a few and simple pleasures, and his love in life included a few horses. He did not want to change to suit the white world, but his wealth altered him due to the new status and unwanted publicity it brought. Most of all, his notorious wife Anna Laura Lowe changed his life during their 13 years of marriage and worked steadily to spend Jackson Barnett's money until Secretary of the Interior Harold Ickes quickly telegraphed Superintendent A.M. Landman and suspend payments to Barnett on April 9th, or April 3rd, 1934. Okay? It took him that long. It says, removed from his homeland of Oklahoma, Jackson lived the rest of his days in California, deemed incompetent by a court. His late years of wealth and controversy ended when he passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 94. And I saw that obituary. His spirit confused and torn between the old Creek ways and the rich lifestyle of the white world could finally rest. He died in 1934, dubbed the world's richest Indian, The world's richest Indian, who kind of had a little miserable time, even though he had all this money. He was being used and played and controlled. Oh, well, at least he got to eat good. He said, hey, I'll just eat whatever, man. I'll just eat until till I have no more money, until I'm gone, man. Yeah. Hopefully he ate good at least, man. So I just want you guys to see, so you don't judge people. Like, you got there's a story to everybody, it's like crazy stuff going on, and whatever they look like, there's somebody's family, somebody's relative, right? So he died the world's richest Indian. Preparations for his burial began at Forest Lawn Cemetery in California, but the United States government halted the proceedings. Government agent John W. Daddy in California, acting on the telegraphed instructions from Commissioner of Indian Affairs John Collier in Washington, appeared at the mortuary and ordered the funeral to be postponed until the decision about whether to bury Jackson Barnett there or at Henrietta in Oklahoma was made. Collier favored burying Barnett in Oklahoma and telegraphed that Daddy, I don't want to say, I'm gonna say Daddy. I feel like I'm saying Daddy. Like, what's going on with this last name? That he would let him know of the decision the following day, June 1, 1934. The death of Jackson Barnett produced a new controversy, for he left no will. Oh, no will now. His estate was estimated at $4 million in cash, securities, and real estate in Los Angeles and Riverside counties in California, and in Creek County in Oklahoma. Wow. Immediately after Jackson's death, attorney Omar R. Young filed a petition in court in Long Beach, California, on behalf of Barnett's 21-year-old nephew, Hubert Howard Barnett. The nephew's petition claimed that Jackson had 5 nieces and 3 nephews living who would be his rightful heirs. At Muskogee, Oklahoma, other relatives filed another petition. Will Connor, 40, from Hannah, and Eddie Connor Bear, 43, of Eufaula, filed on behalf of 7 other heirs. Winnie Connor Hendricks, 57, of Admore, John Connor, right, 36, of Eufaula, Rebecca J. Baker, 63, of Scooten, Nathan Williams, 59, of Okema, Susie Connor, 45, of Saxawa, Emma Connor Burgess, 40, of Saxawa, and May or Hannah Connor, 35, of Saxawa. In the end, 200 heirs. Damn, so many people. Look how many people wanted his money. Look how much family popped up at the end. In the end, 200 heirs, in parentheses, had emerged in Oklahoma, California, Kentucky, New Mexico, Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio. Hey, yo, Signs, go get your money, dog. Go get your money, Signs, dog. Yeah. Another wife with 2 children also made a claim to the Barnett estate. At this stage, people named Barnett from all parts of the country were receiving calls from lawyers suggesting that they claimed relationship to Jackson Barnett. Eventually, an estimated 1,000 people claimed to be relatives. 1,000 people claimed to be relatives. Damn. 15 years of litigation followed Jackson's death. Before his estate was settled, Mrs. Barnett had employed attorneys, including Harold McGugan, to argue for her interests. During the presentation of the evidence, it was disclosed that large sums had been transferred to Mrs. Barnett and her lawyers by Barnett's thumbprint signature. The U.S. District Court ruled that the transfers were illegal and that Mrs. Barnett and her lawyers knew of Jackson's mental incompetence to handle large sums of money. A court order called for her to be ejected from the Barnett home in Los Angeles in spite of a petition filed by her friends and supporters seeking to stop the procedure. In the final outcome, the court annulled the Barnett marriage in 1934. Based on the conclusion that Jackson did not understand the meaning of marriage vows, the marriage was ruled invalid. After the 15 years it took to resolve the heirship of Jackson Barnett's estate, his rightful heirs received appropriate shares as determined by the court. Judge Robert L. Williams in the Federal District Court at Muskogee, Oklahoma, rendered his decision on December 16, 1939. Based on the Dawes allotment rules, the court recognized 34 claimants, mostly full-bloods, as descendants of Sire Barnett, listed as Jackson's father. White greed for Indian allotment land proved unrelenting, affecting tribes and individuals as Jackson Barnett. This was unfortunate enough by itself, but to take advantage of an elderly person who understood little about the mainstream society was even worse. This sad tale presents the exploitation of one Muskogee Creek full blood, but also reveals that white greed knew no limits, leading one person of a culture to exploit another of a different culture, even as other opportunities waited to have their chances too. Traditionalists like Jackson Barnett lived in a nightmare of confusion, feeling trapped in a life no longer like the one they had known as children. That's crazy, man. You know, the once proud spirit of each exploited, allotted Indian was crushed by the momentum of the white capitalist system, which then abandoned the traditionalist Indian in a modern world, you know. A general prophecy of the Muskogee Creek is that the world will come to an end when the people no longer celebrate the harvest of the green corn. Listen, this is crazy right here. We just did Thanksgiving, guys. This is how it all. I don't plan this. I just go with the Great Spirit. I literally ran into this book today. I didn't know it existed. Right? We just recently learned about Thanksgiving. Somebody came at me because he's saying he's mad at my Thanksgiving video. He's telling me I'm don't talk about his people. I'm not one of your people. All this other racist shit. But anyways, I guess he missed the point of the Thanksgiving video. I did show the whole history, both sides, you know, not just what you think of it, right? So look into this prophecy. Listen to it. I'm gonna read it so you pay attention. When the people no longer celebrate the harvest of the green corn in their busk ceremony, that's giving thanks to the Great Spirit, the green corn, giving the first fruits, right? And tribal prophets warn that the sky will rain blood. We're telling you, when the trees are cut, their sap will be blood. Announcing that when the last of the Indians disappear from the land will fall beneath the waters of the ocean. Wow. Jackson Barnett had simple pleasures. His horses and his love for the land, and his death, like the tribal prophecy, promised chaos. The sad story of the exploitation of Jackson Barnett was only one of many cases of unscrupulous Europeans taking advantage of the Muskogee Creek and allottees of other tribes. It was even more unfortunate if the allottees had oil on their lands, as many Osage did in the early decades of the 20th century. All right. That's the end of this chapter. Again, that was the book, The Invasion of the Indian Country in the 20th Century, American Capitalists and Tribal Natural Resources by Donald L. Fichico. So he carries the Fichico line name, so he knows the history. I just realized that, right? And guys, this review, this source right here has a lot of good chapters. All right, so we'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back for another review under fair use for educational purposes, critique, commentary in a community setting here. Fair use. Right? Now we know the story of Jackson Barnett, the richest Indian, supposed richest Indian, and look at the lady right there. Look at her living all rich. And all the lands being allotted. You see, it's all part of the plan of manifest destiny, expansion, U.S. capitalist, the corporate expansion. But we can't forget to do the Green Corn Festival. You heard it. You heard the Muskogees. You can't stop doing that. You got to give thanks, man, for the harvest, man. Yeah, you got to. Wow, for real. But you know, I'm sorry, man. Because we read this, you know I gotta go out with payday. You know I gotta go out with payday because it fits the whole story today. They want that payday, that big time payday. They want that big time payday. It's all about that moolah, huh? And taking it from you so you don't get your payday. Oh, they want that payday. I know that. Yeah, I know that. Yo, give thanks to the Great Spirit always. Thanks for everybody that came through. Appreciate you guys always. It's late for me. It's not easy reading for 2 hours this late. I was literally sitting here all day working on the tree for that chief. And trust me, we're gonna expose that. All right. We'll come in with that soon. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Much love and respect. I'm gonna share this as I shared a book last night. I shared a great book on my Patreon page last night, the Black Bostonians book. Go check it out. I'm also going to share this book on my Patreon as well. If you're interested to support me in that way, check out my Patreon page. I appreciate you guys. Much love again. Much respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow.
I want to do something with you called Cursing with Canelo. Cursing with Canelo. You say some of the best curse words.
Yeah. Payday, mother. Payday, mother. You want payday, mother. You want payday. I know that. Payday. 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 Yeah,
I want to do something with you called Cursing with Canelo. Cursing with Canelo. You say some of the best curse words.
Yeah. Motherfuckers, son of a bitch. You want. Motherfuckers, son of a bitch. You want. I know that. You fucking kidding me, motherfucker. I know that.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Payday. I know that. Payday. Yeah. You want 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 payday. I know that. Payday.
I want to do something with you called Cursing with Canelo. Cursing with Canelo. You say some of the best curse words.
Yeah. You fucking kidding me, motherfucker. You want. Motherfuckers, son of a bitch. You want. I know that. You fucking kidding me, motherfucker. I know that.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Payday. I know that. Payday. Yeah. You want 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 payday. I know that. Payday.
I want to do something with you called Cursing with Canelo. Cursing with Canelo. You say some of the best curse words.
Yeah. Motherfucker, dumb bitch.
I want to do something with you called Cursing with Canelo. Cursing with Canelo. You say some of the best curse words.
Yeah. Payday. Motherfucker.